episode is sponsored by Raise Tech, end-to-end IT solutions for your business growth.
Hello everyone, hello dear listeners. As you can see, we're at our final episode of the season, 20th episode. We had in total, 20 episodes, 20 bonus episodes, one live session, so
quite a lot.
Record-breaking season for us. We decided to make this one differently, a bit of a sort of a nature feeling, at least when we're recording is close to the Joninės. How is it?
Is it midsummer?
Midsummer day, yes. So we're trying to get some fresh air here.
Yep.
How are you guys?
Great.
How's the summer?
Pretty good so far. Had already vacation, so I'm relaxed.
Lucky one. But yeah, coming up for me, so looking forward to. Last episode of the season, as usual, three of us, Simas, Gražvydas, Andrius, Žirnis walking around somewhere. Maybe he'll join us at some point. We'll
Little
see.
dog for others to be aware.
So we'll don't have any fancy famous person to talk to, but we'll talk to each other. As a traditional,
famous, aren't we?
Yeah, we were the most famous guys here. And we selected a topic to talk about feedback culture, right? Which is pretty wide topic, pretty diverse topic. But let's see where we can get this to. So I believe let's start with a bit of a distinguishing the type sort of a feedback, right? Because we can talk about the personal feedback when we sort of have something happen within the team, or between few people, and I want to give you feedback, or receiving feedback maybe between a leader and an employee.
Yep.
And then there is also sort of a part of feedback when we talk about product development. So how to get timely feedback on our product, of what we did, what we accomplished, from the client's users, so that we can incorporate this knowledge and for further development, sort of create this feedback loop, which is a huge part of an agile culture. So I believe this can also be touched upon. But let's start with the first one, the personal feedback and fostering feedback culture. Probably first question: why we need that? Why? How come it's useful?
Personal feedback. Why we need personal feedback?
Why we need good culture? Feedback culture, right? Probably not a feedback per se, but of course do it in the right way.
Well, firstly, feedback is important to create a chance for a person to grow. I mean, if I did something not as good as someone expected, and there is a place where I can improve, I would really love to get that feedback, which would improve my self-awareness, how I influence others with my actions, with my talking, with my behaviors, with my appearance, and that helps me personally to grow. But at the same time, why feedback also is needed? Usually what I've noticed, if there's a feedback within two people and they share feedback, I share it with you, share it with me, we maintain trust of each other. So having that feedback, precondition to have a feedback is to have the trust, or as well with the feedback you're building the trust. So I think that these two are, in my opinion, what makes it a different, having personal feedback.
Trust is the fundamentals. We all know about Lencioni, right? And the fundamental of functional team, let's say. Anything to add?
I think it's again it's way even more, I would say, because when we're giving, we increasing the transparency. We and it's you mentioned that maybe I did, but at the same time it's vice versa. But when you're trying to help others, you want to practically give feedback to someone, just not from the bad intention, but again from the good intentions, and that's where, when we maintain this culture, we seeing, actually we are not blaming, we are not trying to stick sticks into the wheels. We actually trying to do better in the future, and when we have this as a culture, we shifting even our mindset that we strive to do that. At the same time, it's maybe I'm running too far away. It's really tricky at the same time, because it sounds easy, it's a feedback culture. Just invite someone and give a feedback to someone, or request a feedback even, because again, there's two ways of that they're doing. At the same time, it's really a bit more complicated than it can
Tricky.
sound.
Yeah, specifically not putting too much of a judgment, and but making it neutral, and what we call, if it's about an improvement, it's a constructive feedback. But as well, sorry, we know that there is another side of a feedback, not only constructive to improve, but it's that, hey, you did it great, or you appeared here really great, and I appreciate what you did. So it's a positive perspective also, which still builds the trust. If I share what I see, and it increases someone's motivation to continue that great work.
I would like to highlight that it's really important to add is that it should not be always constructive feedback, because when even someone inviting, oh, can I give you feedback, you already in your mind, oh, someone will say what I did may be wrong or how it can be improved, but it's not always like it can be from a different side, like, wow, you did great, I love this and that, keep it going and stuff like that. It's still feedback.
And one thing to share to that, to the positive feedback, a funny thing that I believe, or I think it's not meaningful anymore compared to how it used to be. Probably you've heard about sandwich of a feedback. Mm-hmm. Something positive, something constructive, positive. And it's so lame. I really would suggest not to do it. If there is something you have to share, like use not, do not put your judgment, but just share what you see instead of trying to wrap it in a nice paper like a candy and then give it to it. It's very
so not real. Funny thing, funny story. It's a real life story. When after the conference, one of the speakers, I came to him and I said, oh, that you did this great. I love the slides. I love this, and I was like, thank you, see ya. And he was like, but what? So you? Yeah, like, I don't have it. I just love it. I wanted to share with you. Like, so yeah.
But that's the question is whether that's, and now I'm going into a bit of a philosophical mode, right? Whether that's a feedback then, or that's sort of a just I don't know, appreciation or just praising. Because, well, when I think now, right, feedback needs to, as Jusimas touched upon, it's either show your weaknesses so that you can overcome them and potentially be better, improve. Yes, exactly. Or show your strengths so you can capitalize on them. But basically then it should be, this was really good, keep on, doing like this or that. If it's just nice slides or something, is it actually a feedback, or is it just praising? Yeah, like, I don't know, Simas, your glasses looks good. Is it a feedback?
Thank you.
So I don't know, like, I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Yeah,
it's probably, it should lead towards something that I really want you to capitalize on, right? I really want you to do more of that, do sort of go further with this or that, or behavior or skill or whatever. Then I believe it's more sort of a useful as a feedback, and it's not only sort of a lame, well, not lame, of course, praising is nice and good and everything else, but I think that it's not a feedback. I'm not sure. That's at least how
it's yeah, you just maybe highlighted, because you should not just praise, but then say maybe why you like what he did and stuff like that. But again, it should not be a sandwich like Sima. So after those praises and then the highlighting of what you actually really like, it should not be but and stuff like that. Not always. Like, it still can be. It's still good, but it should not be always the same case.
I mean, it can be if it's natural, I believe. If you really have two positive things to say and one negative, do it in the sandwich way.
And will it be two truths and a lie?
But if you have one negative thing and then you're sort of making yourself to come up with those two positives just to make a sandwich, then it's a bit sore but stupid, right? And I think it's a bit of this whole sandwich model. I think it comes more from the overseas, and not to sort of insult anyone, but it's a bit of a cultural differences also established in some countries and regions. In USA, I mean, for example, the culture is that you need to sugarcoat things more, or at least maybe it's not that you need, but people do that. It's my experience as well, that
What you mean is that there is certain cultures within the companies how feedback is given, taken, shared, and
It's sometimes not the companies, sometimes it could be even individuals, and that's also actually that's when we come to the part of how to give feedback and the culture of feedback, if we call it within the company. I believe that's really important, that it's sort of formulated and everyone adheres to same standards of how feedback is more or less given or told, when it's direct, when it's not direct, when it's a bit more of a sandwich, or
at what timing also. I mean, is it just after event, or collecting yearly feedback, or is it like, I don't know, after some period, after something that happened, triggered? That's as well important. That makes it different how you do it, because you need to think of how to, as you mentioned, sometimes sugarcoat it or make it not insulting. And one of the ways how to convert your feedback maybe into less insulting, we discussed a bit before, it's to use nonviolent communication, and don't put judgments into what you say, but share what you observed, what that person did, and explain what emotions it triggered for you, or what has happened that you observed, plus what you believe that person needs to change, rather than saying, I believe you did a presentation which was, I don't know, no one was listening to, and you had that and that wrong.
At least you mentioned that and that, because the worst is just, I didn't like it, and then you just...
That's the worst. That's the worst. It doesn't make a change at all.
To add to that, even the place needs to be, you should think about even the place. Do you want to, maybe virtually, do you want to invite to the separate calm room, or it can be given in open space and stuff like that. This should be counted too.
Of course, adhere to those basics. Now I think we can, we all think about it as basics, but maybe it's just worth mentioning that, it's don't give negative or, the hard feedback, publicly, and, somewhere when the other people are around.
Well, it depends. It depends, actually. I think it depends on the feedback culture that you have established within your area. I mean, if the team is really trusted within each other, and the feedback culture is really, so to say, quite open, everyone trusts each other, and even the team might have an agreement. If something happens, please let's share it right away. And sometimes even it's healthy to call out that behavior if you notice something happened wrong compared to what we agreed before. So sometimes it's okay even to make it public, but as you said, you need to assess the situation.
Yeah, but this case I would like to add that it's actually even more complicated than just giving feedback. So don't jump to this if you don't have previous experience of the just feedback culture, because if you thinking, oh, we are such a cool team or squad, and we definitely are up to this challenge that we can give this constructive feedback in the one room with everyone, well, it can backfire really badly.
Absolutely. So we're getting back to having established rules, whether it's a team, and I even propose it's not a team thing, it's sort of an organizational thing, right? Of course, team can have their own sort of a set of agreements that, for example, something goes wrong, we tell it right away, and whatever. But the company needs to have those rules, because it could be very different interpretations. I had a case where a person was, and it's also different sort of cultures here, Lithuanians and some other cultures. Basically, the Lithuanian was, well, not fired, but put under how to say, sort of
notice period.
Yeah, notice periods, you can say, but basically because of well, he didn't do the right things, or he didn't do his job right. But that was according to his manager, that was overseas.
Okay.
And then, had a conversation, and HR had a conversation. We just sort of figured out that case later, that he said that, when HR and everyone came to me and told me that I was under this now period, and, I have time to get better, or I'll be let go. This was the first time I heard anything bad about myself. Because my leader, when we had the performance appraisal, sessions and so on, he sugarcoated things so much that I didn't understand that I went out thinking that I was doing a good job. but that was a clash in cultures and no common feedback culture within the company. Then the cultural, let's say the geographical cultures, right? Sort of a things kicks in. And so we as Lithuanians expect things straightforward, and that it's mentioned, it's said, and now I know point by point. And in that case, overseas, it was like I thought I was completely clear with him.
It's not just about the feedback what you're saying, but it's more like how do people communicate different things, and it might be that it's clear or it's not clear. And with feedback, it's extremely sensitive and important, because if you are not clear, you're not sending the message, you're not sharing how to improve, how to change. And why we need feedback in general is to improve, is to change. And with that, we can slowly bridge into personal feedback, but then there is a team, feedback of the team, or it could be product, it could be system. Why we need feedback in the product? We call it usually feedback loops. It's just to improve the product continuously. And how do we collect it? How do we adjust it? How do we go there?
Yeah, but just getting back, maybe before jumping to the product, just want to sort of clear things out here. That that's the importance of building a clear rules and the feedback culture within the company. We need to do the trainings. We need to have forms. Maybe if we're afraid, if we're a small company, everyone's here locals. Maybe it's less sort of important, right? But when we grow bigger, when we are a multinational company, then it's very important that we need to figure out things. I can ask for clarifications. I can ask whether it's a good or bad thing you're telling me. I mean, and all of those kind of details. It's very good if it's clearly defined. Also, sort of as a part of our culture, especially when we talk about performance evaluations, right? So if we get to that part, not only sort of a small feedback of what I did yesterday within the team, but when I talk some more important things. So that needs to be clearly defined. Otherwise, those cultural, and then of course if we see those kind of problems, we need to maybe do one step more and go to do some cross-cultural trainings to the company, and so to understand each other better, right? Because no one did a bad sort of a thing there. They just did what was regular and
what they assume that they expect.
They assume that the other person also perceives it in the same way, right? Which it wasn't. So
an assumption is the enemy here once again.
Exactly.
But you triggered me one thing I've discussed with one of the managers recently. We talked what great manager does and how to work with the performance evaluations. And he gave quite a good example that I liked. That's quite self-explanatory and understandable, but sometimes we miss it. If there's a performance review of your employee, let's say, and only at that point you start thinking, oh, I need to collect feedback about this person. It's like a year passed, or I don't care if it's a quarter, half a year. Only at that point, if you start collecting, putting things or asking people to share, it's a bit too late.
It's not a yearly then feedback. It's that time period when you start to gather till the time when
usually
you actually
last month.
For the last month, but you need to do it continuously, because then you cannot assess the actuals. You cannot help your actually employee. You're not helping at all.
This is what where we should highlight in the feedback culture of the company. That company should highlight to the leaders that, look, we as a company have maybe half of a year, quarterly, whatever. So we have those feedback loops, not just after just event or whatever, which we usually, as even Simon's highlighted, it should be given straight away when you're noticing something. At the same time, there are loops which have a bigger time period, so half a year or yearly. So during the yearly, you cannot leave your homework for the last month or last night. This should be something which you're highlighting and even noting to yourself. So it will be way easier when the time is to discuss this yearly, like a huge time gap.
And just one moment, not noting, but as well just resharing right away.
Exactly.
Yeah, but sometimes you're still noting, because when you will have this yearly review and you will highlight, look, I remember, or that this happened. It can be, or it can cause more of, but what I don't remember. Then you can provide more details. Just it was a long time ago, but I did, I just noted this one sentence or whatever. It should be still good to have a bit more details as a leader. I do it. It's not mandatory, but I saw really good positive then those you had not just said this one, but you provided more information. That's great, stuff like that.
It's actually I saw only very few probably organizations that has good feedback sort of a culture and system within it, right? It's so not natural. Let's agree. I mean, feedback in general, giving and receiving, it's so not natural. It's a skill. No, but really, it's a skill that needs to be developed, and it's a hard one actually to develop. All leaders need to be taught on giving feedback very, very well about the cases. Small feedback, say right away, say how we agree on how we'll
accepting feedback also, by the way.
Not only accepting, but asking feedback. That's something that it's very unnatural. Or someone, you just we could be asking for, do you have any feedback? I know, not this time, and that's the conversation, right? And it could be that it's not every week that you have a very substantial feedback, but the skill to actually, sort of continuously ask for feedback and say, well, maybe for next time you can, and it doesn't need to be a big, huge things. It could be like pretty small things that you want to acknowledge, whether positively or negatively. Maybe someone, you said a negative part of a feedback or developmental feedback, right? And then a week later, the person became better. Then you have a positive feedback to tell that, look, I told you, you reacted very well, right? Great job, right? So it's very underrated, sort of in a lot of cases, and it's sort of perceived as natural. And of course, feedback, we do feedback. Everyone does feedback. We have one-to-ones, and we have performance appraisal, cycles, and we all do. But in fact, it's not, because on how to do it really well and constructively, how to make sure this relationship is built, right? And asking and giving and perceiving the feedback and reacting to it. It's a skill that requires quite a lot of effort to be developed, and a lot of trainings that you need to do on it. Some coaching sometimes even needs to be done to some leaders on how to give and receive feedback. Do not overlook it as a sort of easy and self-explanatory. Here's the rules. Now you do it. It doesn't work that easy. It's not a natural thing. At least that's what I experienced.
I think it's related to what you said as well. You could do coaching training, but I think it's as well related to mentality or to your mindset. Because observe the situation, for example, where person is okay to give feedback, is okay to receive feedback, and that's what he claims, that's what he says. But at the end, after something is done and you share that was a bit unclear, or that was not the best timing to share this one, I think so, due to this and that, the person gets defensive, and in my case, the person got defensive. So it's not really that you know how to, the models. It's as well that you apply that for yourself. You not preach for, let's do the feedback, let's have feedback culture, but you apply it yourself. And sometimes we just get defensive. That's really natural, because if we invest lots of work, let's say I've been preparing for this training, so I invested a lot of work, all of the the slides, the virtual mirror boards, whatever, and someone says that, but I don't like the content was shit or whatever. I take it personally, and that's fine. But as well, I need to understand what that person is saying and acknowledge, digest it, and see what it is I could do differently, and ask. If you just get defensive, and that doesn't help.
It's actually, again, getting really tricky, because it really depends if the feedback or the person who's giving the feedback actually felt because you maybe did something as relationship one-to-one. So then that I should be acting differently with this person. At the same time, again, not every feedback you should do and already change or stuff like that. Like example, like if you're doing presentation for the wall squad and one person actually gives you a feedback about something which he may didn't like, maybe the tool or whatever, the colors, it can be many things. It's then good to double check with the rest of the team. Maybe the majority will say, what, no, I would not like if this color would be changed to that, which was
very good
stuff
point.
like that. So not every feedback which you're listening should be straight away, I need to change something. You need to digest, to think, or ask, why and stuff like that. Get to the roots of why this person actually, saying as you say, and then in my case, it was that I intentionally wanted to have that, as he mentioned. So I thank you. So I didn't, I was maybe not that clear with this person. At the same time, it was for the bigger audience, and it was more fine for others and stuff.
But once receiving the feedback, what I can tell for sure that you need to be open-minded, and if you're aware about active listening, that's as well so important. Not only just to listen what person sees, but to see and observe the reactions how person shares.
If it's I and I, yeah. Absolutely.
Course,
It could be written feedback or any kind of feedback as well. Yeah, I faced some situations myself where I did some job and I received completely different feedback for the same job from different people.
Yeah.
Completely different. One say that we love what you do, it's great, and keep on doing it. The other saying, it completely ruins everything we have. It's it's completely not tailored for the company and so on and so far. But it's still a good feedback. You need to still acknowledge that, because then if who were the people telling that, then you can maybe make some conclusions that, again, maybe there are a group of people, maybe there are cultural differences. Maybe, with these people, I need to have a different approach. With these people, when I work, I need to have something, and so on and so forth. So it's still something that, you might think that, at the end of the day, I did what I needed to do and it was a good thing. But next time when I approach these people, I will maybe think of, how I will tailor this a bit differently, just because, something didn't click there. It's still, I think, learn, even though, as you mentioned, you can get defensive and say, yeah, but the rest of the crew likes it. Yeah, but then the question is why this person didn't like it, and maybe it's worth of, double checking with that person in advance, and maybe just wants more attention. So you need to give them that ask before you do, and so on and so forth. So that could be also a case.
And you know what that reminds me once again, that it's listening to what others are saying and incorporating that, acting differently. Once again, it raises that self-awareness. How do you influence others with what you do? And the broader understanding you have of your environment where you're in, the more it helps. I remember we did with three of you, I think, with three of us, we did the trainings, and we got different feedbacks from different people, and we were discussing, collecting, what that means. This group means this group likes this group doesn't like that. And then with having that understanding, we can adjust by having the awareness what people expect, to actually balance that out. For someone still it will be not good, for someone it will be better, but we'll reach that neutral point. That self-awareness, really, really good.
Remember what Raja said, and what I wanted to highlight, when Raja said that when you're asking feedback, and then the person said, like, I don't have feedback for you now, like I maybe didn't focus on that. It's sometimes even good to say, oh, look, I will have this presentation and you will participate that. Can you try to, look into the things which I could do a different, better, and stuff like that? So already asking that person, can you highlight and watch me while I will do something? So you
more active
after that,
participation,
I will be able to just catch you and then give me everything what you got. That really works well.
And what I as well thought about, you mentioned asking someone for feedback for presentation or something. It is so helpful if you're taking specific role in organization, and you have your peer colleague doing exactly the same, to ask feedback from your colleague. So it mirrors down like your skill set, your actions, to how other professional within the same field perceives it, and what does it say. So it's a good moment just to mention, to have a not necessary mentor, but a peer to feedback towards your actions. It might turn into a very nice agreement.
Very last thing before we switch to maybe a bit of a time flies, but maybe we can still touch a bit on the product, sort of a feedback cycle. But one last thing that I want to touch is, and the message is also for the leaders. And I know it's also sometimes...
Now you look serious with these glasses. The message is for the leaders.
Oh yeah. So as a leader, especially if you're a higher ranking leader, also hear out the feedback or the comments on the decisions, on the things that you do, from, it could sometimes be that just a regular employee came to me and I don't know, see something, and now he dares to tell me what sort of a shortcomings I have, or what bad things I'm doing, right? So you could be defensive very quick as well, and just by thinking, they don't understand, I'm more experienced usually. So maybe not as black and white, but sometimes it just triggers to the person sort of a defensive mode, just because I'm a sort of a higher ranking person in within the company, right? So drop that. My proposal: hear out, the small details that sort of a regular employees can tell you are worth millions, and this could save you a fortune. This could because you will not see those small things, and just hear out on the comments, on the sort of a decisions that you make, because it could definitely be sort of a worth a lot going forward, for the future decisions.
This actually getting back to the company culture. So are we even have tools, processes, and to enable this? Because usually if it's a big company, for one person to reach that someone is just not impossible. At the same time, there was a good examples even from my personal experience, that the CEOs or the high person of a company created a separate tool or just email specifically for the feedback for any employee. So you still could easily reach out, and that if you're sending to that, it's for the feedback. And it's a culture.
It's a culture, of course. If it is a culture that everyone is afraid to talk to the CEO or some higher ranking managers, so of course you will not even think about giving feedback. But if you have a culture of I don't know, CEO having lunch with whatever team together, just because we're in the kitchen, so we're all, and then everyone feels free to give that feedback, then it's a culture I believe that you need to strive for.
And before we switch, just another perspective that was mentioned, but just to emphasize also that if you personally get defensive during the feedback, it usually closes the door. And I just had situation this yesterday, discussed with two people. There was a coach and two clients, where one person shared something with another got defensive, and from that moment they were not sharing feedback to each other. Well, they're supposed to be a team, they're supposed to work together. And be careful once you try to defend and explain yourself, as what Andrew said. Maybe don't hurry up and listen too fully. Once you listen too fully, ask if there is anything else, and then if you believe it's the right moment, try to explain why you acted like that. But don't be defensive, like, no, you don't understand, that's what I think, and so on. Because it really closes the door. And it might be, even with this example, that high-ranked company leader gets defensive with someone when someone asks, and it immediately shuts the door, and you will not get opinion from the same person again.
Okay, let's move let's move to the sort of a product or sort of feedback loops on the agility part. Don't have much time on this, but I believe the key thing is that it needs to be done and as frequent as possible. Let me cut it short.
That's all.
That's the best takeaway.
Yeah. No, but really, I mean, we talk about giving feedback right away on the personally. So why we done this with the with whenever we're creating something or doing some work? It doesn't need to be a product. It could be, I don't know, I do trainings. I do some sort of a work, right?
Product, service, whatever it is.
And sometimes I see that it is a trend that people want to finish as much as possible before showing to someone, and I need to tell them that don't. I mean, you make one. Let's say we're building, I don't know, some sort of a document. Make one chapter, right? One clause or whatever. Show it to others while you're working on the rest, right? In this case, you'll be able to just get back more. I remember actually I incorporated, without knowing it, of course, like that when I was writing my thesis, because I know that some sort of a students, some peers of mine were sort of had the relationship with the lecturer, with the sort of the one that supervises you on the thesis. just maybe one time somewhere and one check-in, and then it's when you come and
Final
need to
word.
defend your work. I had like basically emailing my lecturer, and of course the lecturer that was supervising me was also open to that, so that was sort of maybe I was lucky. But basically every second day I was just making a small part and I was sending a small part and I was sending, and I was receiving constant feedback, and it turned out like very well, because while I was writing something else, I've received some feedback on something there that influences the rest of my thesis, so I can make changes right away, and it's not something big that I then don't have time to finish in time. So it could be with any kind of work that you do, right? Try to establish as short feedback loops as possible, because anyhow that's only the benefits you can get.
What it reminds me, a team working, creating a product, and their customers are other employees in the company. That's one of classical examples. Might be customers working in the company or outside, end users. I remember the situation where I was working with the team and trying to teach them we need to ask constantly for feedback and ask to provide the feedback so we could improve. And it was not the best example of how it happens, because once the team asked for feedback and started asking them, these customers, employees of the company, often, they were not interested in providing that. And the team was feeling really bad, because they're doing, they think it makes sense also, but they're not getting the feedback. But it turned out that these internal employees, customers, were not happy of some functionality. So it was the perfect teaching moment. If you're not happy with something, just go away right away and mention. But if you think that what the team delivered is good and helpful, you should mention that also, because else the team feels not motivated, they don't get anything out of you. And the most importantly, most of the teams do have sprint reviews. That's my tiny part event that you can join and share what you think, appreciate. So team works really hard. Give them at least few words what you think about it. And that's where feedback within the team, for me, is so important, specifically to get. And if they're important internal employees, it's not so hard. It's much harder to get someone from the street and ask for feedback, but people still do that. Do you have similar experiences?
Yeah, and just you mentioned sprint reviews, and I know that Scrum basically puts you into this more or less sort of a structure where you can ask regular intervals. You expect to get feedback on the results you delivered, and but I would don't limit yourselves to that. That's maybe the sort of part of the critics of Scrum, that then we believe that we'll get feedback every 2 weeks or whatever the length of a sprint we have. But if you delivered something, ask the same day you delivered. Ask the other team members on the part of the code you wrote, whether that makes sense. If you have at least some sort of a doubt, right? Or if you want to spar. That's those short loops, those short closed loops, is something that will be of value eventually. So don't only trust like that. Let's a Scrum, for example, this 2 weeks, and this is where we get feedback. Yes, by definition, sort of if you use and if it works well for you, yes, but it shouldn't limit you to be even more proactive. When getting the feedback. So
don't limit yourself. Is that a good quote for ending? Don't limit yourself?
No limits. Could be. Andres, I don't know if you
I
have any final words.
And one more thing, because it's nice when you're asking for feedback and you're receiving feedback. Of course, it's nice. It's really annoying when you're trying to get feedback and then no one actually gives to you. That's really demotivating, as even Simas mentioned. At the same time, I would like to highlight one more thing. When you're asking a feedback and someone gives you feedback, try to think like, if you is from the product delivered, like if you deliver some feature and you didn't receive, or you received feedback about some of them, but you didn't receive about another part or whatever, try to double check, like, oh, what about this one? Or did you actually like it? You didn't mention about this and anything. that could be again something which would be critical for you in the future, because that's where I noticed at least few times when it was, it was didn't mention that we focused only on the things which we received the feedback, we left that behind, and after some time that pops up, if we would actually straight away double check, oh, but we released even this part, what do you think about this? Maybe you didn't use it, maybe you didn't try, and stuff like that. It's still good, the feedback that someone will say, yeah, we didn't using, or we not using that at all, and stuff like that. But when you getting the feedback, try to double check, oh, if I receive the feedback from the everything which I wanted to, or I was more only partial, and then I can double check, oh, what about this one, and stuff like that. So that's something which you can think about too. That sometimes really helps.
So to summarize, ask for feedback, give feedback, receive feedback, react on feedback, whether it's on product, whether it's personal, and of course it's much more sophisticated than that. We talked about all cultural parts, right? But we talked a lot already, so maybe it's time to wrap it up for today. Well, that happens when three coaches get together. We talk a lot, but anyhow, so talking about feedback, would love to receive some feedback from you. That's the last episode of the season of Agile Salvos on the Agile Couch. Tell us, what else do you expect, maybe for our next shows, for our next seasons. Tell what should be more of, less of. We're always interested in this feedback. We're open to get it. And
we're not just saying, we actually
we're very much looking forward, and we promise we react. Otherwise, have a great summer. Great summer to you guys. Great summer to our listeners. And see you. Let's reconvene in a couple of months, where we can expect maybe to have a season 5.
Yeah.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Till then, we still would like to invite you to Agile Dayconas, which will be in 22nd of August. Join that. And we have one more even Agile event, huge one, Agile Tour Vilnius 2024. It will be 22nd and 23rd of October. So
yes, our partners, Agile Lithuania, Agile Lietuva, organizing these amazing events here in Lithuania. So make sure at least to check on them. Agile Kaunas it's gonna be pretty soon. So don't waste your time. Just go up and get your tickets, and
don't miss a chance.
Yeah, don't miss a chance, and maybe even see you there. So thank you. Have a great summer. Until the next times.
see ya.
Cheers.